was indeed a huge win for Argentina, bringing them right back into contention in Group C. They now sit level with Saudi Arabia on 3 points, both of them a point behind Poland, who are top. So still all to play for. What a final round of fixtures to savour. Poland against Argentina, Saudi Arabia against Mexico. And lest we forget, in terms of separation for those level on points at the end, is goal difference, followed by goals scored, followed by fair play points. So there's the relief, I think, is the overriding emotion among the Argentina players. Not really a celebration, because in truth, an ugly game.
Yeah, definitely a better second half from Argentina. We spoke about at half-time that it possibly would need a bit of Messi magic, and I think that was the turning point in the game for Argentina. But I think there'll be a huge weight lifted off their shoulders now after that win, so you'd expect them going into the last game against Poland, where realistically they probably need a win, especially if Saudi Arabia are to go and beat Mexico. It's a tight group, so look, I think that win was what they needed, as I said, and I think that's going to be a huge weight lifted off their shoulders.
How much will a performance like that, energy-wise, take out of a team? Emotional energy I'm talking about here.
Well, it takes energy. They know they play the game tonight. I reckon that the 22 of the 28 players who played tonight, I think they all sleep. And they probably all need an ice bath, because that was brutal. That was as brutal a game as I've seen in terms of physicality. But it's a huge win, because what you must take into account when you go as a big nation like Argentina is, people expect them to go at least to the semis or to the final, maybe even win the World Cup. They would have left the hotel 5 hours ago, knowing when they do come back tonight, it might be time to pack the bags. Yeah? There was a distinct possibility, even at half-time it was a distinct possibility. Now you win the game, a brutal encounter. What was the biggest positive for me tonight, that they stood up to Mexico, especially in the second half. And they matched them in terms of physicality, and then they had a bit of fortune, a bit of Messi magic, as Steph called it, and they win their game. So they go back now. They know they've got a game against Poland in 4 days' time. They probably or may still have to win that game, but the confidence it'll give them and the boost. And we talked about it before, you don't have to win the first game to win the World Cup. Sometimes, or we've seen it over the years, we saw teams in the first 1 or 2 games and we thought, not too sure about them, but they did grow throughout the tournament. And I'm not saying they're contenders, but I wouldn't rule them out at all.
Saudi Arabia could beat Mexico, don't you think?
Yeah, they could, and which would mean that Argentina has to beat Poland. But this game, the pressure they had today, 90 minutes against a team that's not easy to play against. The Mexicans are one of the least teams you would like to play when you have to win a World Cup game. But it'll give them huge confidence. So the mood in the country, the mood in the camp will change from depressed to delighted, and everybody will be buzzing now. The next few days they'll be training, they'll be looking forward to the game now, because they probably didn't look forward to the game after the game against the Saudis. And it's a huge turnaround for Argentina, and if they were to beat Poland, which I think they will do, might even top the group, don't rule them out.
Yeah, he didn't do much except score that goal, and he took a long time to get into the game. Was Messi, messier than usual? Was he off his best?
A little bit. I think it's the way the game panned out. Really, wasn't that first half? We talked about the way the game went. It was all kind of kicks, bad tackles coming through, and Messi was trying to get into positions to do something like this, and he just didn't have the opportunity. But his movement here to get away from Hector Herrera, it's a great ball in from Di Maria, but for me it's the first touch, because we know how quick the Mexicans were at getting in on top of him, and his first touch sets him on the way, and it's a fantastic strike through a few bodies, and a show it in the Mexican goal has no chance. But look, that's what he's capable of, and that's what you need in your team. A player like him, if you have someone like him, you've every chance of doing well within this tournament.
If you're Scaloni, you can't take him off, can you? I mean, if you think you're struggling in the game, and it might be tactically the correct thing to get someone with fresher legs, more running ability, but you can't take him off when he's able to do that.
No, I think it's a completely different story to Neymar, Brazil, or Ronaldo in Portugal. He's the heart of their team. He's got to play. And this is what I said before. He's got to manage himself, because you see players, it was a very intense game and there were a lot of players going down with cramp. He didn't, because I think he looks after himself, and he has to, because Argentina without Messi, no good.
What about the second goal, though? We've found Fernandez turning into a bit of a hero for the Argies.
Yeah, he was brilliant, wasn't he? And I think he made a bit of a difference as well. I think Rodriguez, when he was on, was probably coming too deep to receive the ball. But Enzo Fernandez, when he came on, he was brilliant. And this goal is just, it's sensational. What a great finish. He does a little step over. The Mexican defender just goes to the right and it leaves him that space just to be able to come inside and get the shot off. And you can see it has to be a quick strike as well because he's got players around him. And it's a fantastic finish. He opens the foot and just a curl into the top corner. And again, Ochoa in the Mexican goal has no chance. It's a fantastic finish.
Was that a training ground corner, do you think, or was it just instinct at the time?
Maybe a bit of both. Obviously, they played a few short corners. They didn't get much joy with the corners because the Mexicans defend the corners really well. And, he plays for Benfica. He came from River Plate in the summer. A huge talent, played his 5th cap tonight. And if Messi gives him the ball there, he knows that he's capable of beating 1 or 2 players in the box and finishing. It's not much of a backlift, and the power he generates was really exceptional. And after their first goal win, and we saw a different Argentina side because they started playing all of a sudden. You could see that the pressure kind of eased off, and the weight of their shoulders was off, and they started playing. They had 1 or 2 combinations which we didn't see in the first half. And also the subs, as Steph said, Molina, Fernandez, Alvarez, they all made a difference. And I think there was a big positive for the manager. You said Scaloni was his biggest test. I think they came through in the second half. But that kid probably will start in the next game. And I was just thinking, towards the end, when everybody had the celebration, Messi came towards him and gave him the biggest hug, or the hardest hug he's probably ever given one. And what a story this is in the World Cup. He's 21. He probably watched Messi 8 years ago in the World Cup final. Yeah. Watched his hero. Had probably a Messi poster in his room.
Yeah, which Argentinian didn't, I suppose.
And now he gets congratulated for the second goal by his hero. What a story!
Brilliant. He's kept them in the tournament. There's no question about that. And they can start redrawing plans now for where they might go for the round of 16 and so on and so forth, and who they might get, if, of course, they can get through the next game.
Yeah, of course. And I think today there's a lot of stuff they have to work on. I think we've mentioned in this game there's a lot of pressure on them to try and get something from it. But there were still kind of moments where you're thinking they just weren't good enough. I think particularly in that first half. It wasn't until probably Messi got that goal they really started to show a little bit more. And be a little bit more adventurous going forward, I think. So still a lot to work on. I think defensively as well, Mexico didn't really put too much up to them as well. And Lewandowski, we know how good he can be going forward for Poland as well. So
he got his first World Cup goal today.
Exactly, yeah. So he's going to be gunning for more goals, isn't he? So be a different type of game for them. But again, as we've said already, I think the shackles are off a little bit now after getting that win against Mexico today.
Let's look at the Argentina chances, though. They did create a bit more. As we said, the first half was awful.
Yeah, I think Messi here, it's probably just the calibre of player you know him to be. I think you expect us to at least hit the target. I think as we said, up until that goal, that's kind of what we were getting from him. It was poor, it wasn't great. This one here, it's flashed across the box. And it's Molina coming in at the back post. He's got in a good position and just slashes at Ari, doesn't he? Gets underneath it, and you just need that kind of composure in those areas to maybe take a touch and get your shot off and go. But look, it's only 2 chances they had in the second half there. There wasn't a lot really for us to look at, really. So, again, that's something that they do need to improve on.
You touched on it earlier, Didi. Will the Argentina media be critical of that performance, or do you think they'll get a bit of a pass?
Well, we saw how delighted and relieved the players were and the fans, because it was a pressure cooker. It was such a huge game. I don't think they'll be too critical, because at the end of the day, they played against a very stern and tough opponent. You have to get the job done, and it doesn't really matter how you do it. And sometimes when you play against these teams, you can't play nice football. To play nice football and be successful is almost impossible in the modern game. And that's why I don't think they'll be too critical. And what you also have to highlight, did Martinez have a save to make? I don't think...
Yeah, do you not think, though, that Manchester City play nice football, one of your old clubs? Do you not think that Barcelona in their heyday, Spain...
Yeah, Barcelona, Manchester City never won the Champions League in 6 or 7 years under Guardiola. And so, yeah, it's all right playing nice football, but the biggest prize was won by somebody else in the last 6 or 7 years since Guardiola is there. Barcelona was probably the last team. And if you go back, but, that Barcelona team had Messi in his prime. They had Iniesta, Xavi. They probably had 6 or 7 players out of the top 15, top 20 players in the world. And if you have these players... you can't help but win games.
Spain won the World Cup, the European Championship. And they've just won 7-0 in the World Cup this year. Looks like they've got a new generation. They're playing nice football.
Yeah, but they played Costa Rica. Mexico was a different kettle of fish today. And well, we see tomorrow. They play Germany. Germany got their own problems. We see tomorrow. But over the course of a tournament, you will have games where you have to battle, where you have to stuck in, where you have to hang in. They did hang in, and the biggest positive was probably, yes, it was a brutal game and it was nice to watch at times, and they didn't play well, Argentina, but I think they restricted Mexico to maybe 1 or 2 shots on goal. I don't think the keeper had a save to make, so...
Contrast for me then the performance of France in the earlier game and Argentina. I mean, it was chalk and cheese, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a big gap. But that doesn't mean when they do come across each other that Argentina can't beat France. And we know that in football it's a one-off game and it's a knockout stage. But when you watch France, as I say, it's day and night, because every time they had the ball, every time they went forward, there were people on the overlap. There was pace, there was guile, there was invention, there was everything. And this was, compared to the France game, it was pretty dire.
You know, Poland and Lewandowski now off the mark for Poland in his first World Cup goal. The Argentinian defence might find it a bit more difficult against him. And Szczesny at the other end, even Lionel Messi might find it a bit harder to hit a daisy cutter past him, because he's in great form.
He is, and that Lewandowski can score goals, we know that he's done it for the last 10 years. I think it'll be a different game, because I think it's almost impossible to play well against that Mexico side, because they're so physical. It'll be a different game. I don't think Poland is quite as aggressive, and I think it'll be not easier, but it'll be a different game for Argentina, and I think it'll suit them better.
In a word, Steph, who will top the group?
I think Argentina, after that game today, I think they'll go and win against Poland. So I'm going to go Argentina.
Very good.